everyone. Welcome into our latest Traded Black podcast. I'm your host, Shad Dales, as we welcome you into our latest episode, diving into the biggest cannabis industry developments for the week of May 5th, 2025. It was all about earnings this week with some of the most recognizable names in U.S. cannabis reporting Q1 results, but that wasn't the only story. We've also got major cannabis reform efforts gaining momentum in Pennsylvania, thank you, a controversial bill in Ohio, and a new federal level developments under the Trump administration's DEA nominee Terry Cole. So, what surprised us? What disappointed us? And most importantly, what matters to you, the cannabis investor, moving forward? So with that, let's dive into it. Let's start on the reform front. Pennsylvania's House made history, narrowly passing HB 1200. It's a bill to legalize adult use cannabis through a state-run retail model, and we don't want that. But don't get too excited. The real challenge is ahead, with Republicans controlling the Senate and even some pro-cannabis Democrats skeptical of the state store structure. This bill faces a steep uphill climb, and that's a good thing. Governor Josh Shapiro, a vocal supporter of cannabis legalization, called the House vote, quote, an important step, but stressed the need for bipartisan compromise. Senate leaders like Republican Stan Laughlin have already dismissed the state store model as a non-starter, preferring a private market approach instead, and that's what we do want. Meanwhile, a competing bipartisan bill backed by Republicans Abby Major and Emily Kinkead aims to legalize cannabis through licensed private dispensaries, a model polling suggests Pennsylvanians overwhelmingly prefer, myself included. Bottom line, cannabis legalization in Pennsylvania is closer than ever, but what that final version looks like, that's anyone's guess. Now over in Ohio, where things are heating up in a different way. After voters passed adult use cannabis legalization last year, Republican lawmakers introduced HB 160. It's a bill that critics say would gut the provisions of the law, reintroducing criminal penalties, slashing social equity licenses, and rolling back access. Groups like the ACLU and Drug Policy Alliance are sounding the alarm, calling this a betrayal of voter trust. One thing's clear, legalization doesn't end the fight, it changes the battlefield. And on the federal level, the Trump administration's DEA nominee, Terry Cole, says one of his first priorities will be to review marijuana's Schedule I classification. While he hasn't committed to full rescheduling, the conversation at the DEA is no longer silent, and that's a shift cannabis stakeholders should be watching. In a related move, the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs launched Project STEM. It's a new initiative to systematically review cannabis research, including focusing on PTSD, pain management, and mood disorders. This is good. And the message is clear. Even without federal legalization, cannabis is on the agenda, and policymakers are finally catching up with public sentiment, and it's about time. What's even more compelling is a 2023 study showed that 40% of veterans with chronic pain are turning to cannabis despite federal restrictions. So it looks like their voice is finally being heard. Now let's talk about why everyone's here this week, and that's earnings. Let's start with Trulieve. The Florida powerhouse delivered a flat quarter year over year with $298 million in revenue, but their 62% gross margin and $109 million in adjusted EBITDA stood out most. They're sitting on $329 million in cash, and their new infused beverage Onward is already expanding beyond Florida. The top line may be stuck, but profitability is in motion. Now for their counterpart, Green Thumb Industries. They brought in $280 million with a 31% EBITDA margin, but they missed investor expectations. CEO Ben Kovler, he still remains bullish on brand expansion, especially through Rhythm, which is deepening its culture footprint in music and events. Meanwhile, Jushi, they continue its slow but steady climb, posting $63.8 million in revenue, expanding proprietary brands, and laying roots in both Ohio and New Jersey. They're positioned to benefit from adult use flips in Virginia and especially in Pennsylvania. 18 of their 41 dispensaries are in PA. Next up is Curaleaf, who reported $310 million in revenue and a 50% gross margin. But here's an interesting stat. They grew international sales by 74% year over year. Their CEO, Boris Jordan, he's going to be back and joining us Monday to break it all down, including what's next for hemp and innovation. That's a conversation you don't want to miss. 4 o'clock Monday. Mark it in your calendar. Next up, Terracin. They turned in a disciplined quarter with $71 million in revenue, solid EBITDA margins, and positive cash flow for the 11th straight quarter. Job well done, Jason and Ziad. They also acquired dispensaries this week in both Ohio and New Jersey, and their deal to manage top-tier New Jersey dispensaries should be immediately accretive to earnings. So again, some good momentum building here for Terracin. Next up is Verano Holdings, which saw $210 million in revenue, while adjusted EBITDA of $54 million, but price compression and promotions weighed on results. Their CEO, George Arcos, he remains focused on automation and margin improvements. Let's continue to watch Verano Holdings. Next company, and a lot of you reached out to us last week, is the Cannabis Company Holdings, and they reported a net loss of $32 million, but improved margins and debt restructuring are helping them simplify and really stabilize. Retail closures in underperforming markets are part of the turnaround play. A lot of work being done here, and we will have them on soon, but I like some of the moves that they've done, especially to push debt out a little bit further. Meanwhile, Grow Generations, they saw sales dip to $35.7 million, but proprietary brands surged, and they're sitting on $52 million in cash and no debt and a leaner footprint heading into B2B dominance. This is an interesting story. Now let's shift to industry news, where Canopy Growth is now hyper-focused on the Canadian market, launching its infused pre-rolls, vapes, and edibles under brands like Tweed and 7 Acres. This is important because their CEO, Luc Mongeau, it's his first major product rollout and a potential lifeline for the LP's domestic market share. Meanwhile, Flora Growth is making headlines for $1 million crypto investment in both Ethereum and Solana. Is this strategic? Maybe. Risky? Definitely. And finally, Organigram. They took home Exporter of the Year honors, capping $50 million in international cannabis sales and reinforcing Canada's potential as a global cannabis exporter. Job well done by Organigram and team. And speaking of Organigram, they'll have their latest results on Monday, and their CEO, Beena Goldenberg, will be joining us to recap all the latest numbers, in addition to CEO of Cureleaf, Boris Jordan, who will also join us tomorrow, Monday at 4 o'clock. So a big podcast coming up. Make sure you log on and give us all your feedback. And if you have time, make sure to like, subscribe, smash on that bell for all notifications, and let's keep the conversation going. Leave your comments below. What stood out to you this week and the latest earnings reports? What surprised you? What disappointed you? Love to get your feedback. And as always, make sure to keep connected here at the Trade to Black podcast. One last thing, make sure to scan this QR code and become a baked-in newsletter subscriber delivered to your inbox weekdays, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, giving you all the latest information on the business and reform side of the cannabis industry. That's it for today. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everyone. And like I always say, stay open-minded, stay connected, and I'll see you next time on our latest Trade to Black podcast. Thanks for watching, everyone.